Chapter 6, the social, emotional, and behavior challenges. This might be the part that we prepare you the least for. There's some staggering statistics in this chapter about how many of the kids that have these mild learning disabilities also have behavior problems. And so one of the challenges to you will be how to deal with both the teaching and nurturing these kids, but also working with those behaviors that are so prevalent. First, I want to just kind of fly over the contents with you. We're going to talk about kind of an overview and then social challenges and emotional challenges and behavior, and they break them out that way and do pretty good. And then strategies for improving each of these. And then some behavior management strategies. So it seems to flow pretty well here. Remember, one of the things that you're challenged with as our special ed teacher is that if the student is having any kind of a behavioral conflict or behavioral challenges in the classrooms, you mark that little thing on the IEP that says the behavior intervention plan. And then you develop this plan. So let's talk about it here. Many students with mild disabilities and learning disabilities have social, emotional, and behavior challenges. And that's not new to you. That's not new to you. Okay, so what are these things? Well, let's go back to our looks like this. The social challenges are the individual's inability or ability to interact with others. Again, it can be somewhat normal, seamless for some kids, for most kids, but kids with these learning problems seems to sputter there a little bit. Same way with emotional, how the student feels about themselves, and then the behavior, the overt and covert actions of an individual. Okay, so let's go to those things. Yeah, some examples here. So first of all, social skills. Skills that are necessary to meet the basic social demands of everyday life. Deficit social skills are among the most crippling types of problems a student can have. You know why? Then it's hard to make friends. And can you imagine coming to school every day knowing you don't have any friends there? Think of what an important part of your school experience was friends. So now you start to get a picture of why this is so crippling to kids with learning problems. And it goes on here, it can cripple all aspects of their life. Right? And I highlighted here, some individuals with learning disabilities are less socially skilled than their same age peers. Okay. And here it says it doesn't have to be, but it can be. Also characteristic students with autism, nonverbal disabilities, things like that. Students who have problems with social relationships may lack sensitivity to others, have poor perception of social situations, and suffer social rejection. And they'll exhibit a wide range of poor social traits such as impulsiveness, low tolerance for frustration, and problems in handling day-to-day social interactions and situations. I want to hit that again. Here's what it can look like. Poor social traits like impulsiveness, low tolerance for frustration, and problems in handling day-to-day interactions and situations. Again, so therefore, you don't have friends, you don't mix well, and how hard that can make the school day. And then here's an example of that. So next is the emotional challenges. There you have it. Okay. Let's move on to these emotional challenges. Often interfere with the academic learning. Students in trouble with emotional challenges are just for them to focus on academic tasks. Okay, so this relationship between learning difficulties and emotional challenges, and I don't know if we ever connect that well enough for you as we prepare you to work with challenging kids. Okay. Most development of typically developing students can be very different from emotionally developed students with learning problems. Successful achievers have a multitude of gratifying experiences. Okay, I'll say that again for you. A multitude of gratifying experiences to develop important basic feelings of self-worth. So, right there, just let me get your head around this. This is what develops self-worth and self-esteem and stuff, is these gratifying experiences, especially when it comes to school. And then hundreds of opportunities of self-satisfaction as well as enjoyment. But when students are achieving, the parent-child relationship is mutually satisfying because normal accomplishments stimulate that parental response of approval and encouragement, as you had when you were in school. As a result, students' own feeling of accomplishment and awareness goes up. Okay, so vision students that don't have that feeling of accomplishment and all the different parts that it cripples. Here, failed attempts. Let me mark this for you. Failed attempts at mastering tasks induce feelings of frustration rather than feelings of accomplishments. Instead of building self-esteem, the thwarted attempts produce an attitude of self-derision, and at the same time, the thwarted attempts failed to stimulate the parent's normal response of pride. Oofta. Okay. With such development scenario, it is not surprising that many students with mild disabilities and students with learning disabilities develop emotional challenges. And it could be internalizing or externalizing. Okay? And so this is the first thing. I'm going to make this number one, is the difference here. What is the difference between internalizing and externalizing? Internalizing that are inward, such as refusal to learn, resistance to pressure, withdrawal, clinging, dependency, or sadness. And here's externalizing. And conduct disorders that encompasses a broad range of antisocial behaviors, such as aggressive acts, thefts, vandalism, arson, lying, truancy, running away, all those types of things. So those two. So here's what you're after. This environment should be a place where the student can be successful. And so that'll be the root of all this for you as our teacher, is how can we get these kids, how can the place be where they can have some success? Not unusual for students with serious emotional behavior problems to have coexisting learning disabilities. You let that soak in. Okay. And if it's severe enough, also with life activities. Because sometimes, and this is what's a little, makes it a little hard, is sometimes it's a school thing. Sometimes they get out of school and they do fine. That this issue they're struggling with it's just a school. But sometimes it's not. Sometimes it affairs their whole life, and more often than not, that's the case. So what are these characteristics that come with these emotional challenges? Well, there's depression, and here are the symptoms of depression. Okay. And lack of resiliency, like self-worth is gained through mastery of skill or task, or perceived respect from peers and through feelings of competence. In other words, students quickly know, can they or can't they? And you remember back when you were young and formative years of school, you knew who couldn't hack it. You knew about that. So that's what we're going to do here, is look at these. Is write something about each of these. We're going to make this number 2. There's some inputs on each of these. And it's laid out pretty well here. Anxiety. Why do they have anxiety in school? Anxiety may cause students to miss class, tune out, become disorganized. Hard to learn under those conditions. So what are the behavioral challenges that come with it? Students struggle with learning. They may become frustrated and act out or refuse to work. And that might be the most challenging. This was my thing, is that passive aggressive, just refuse to do anything. I guarantee that will frustrate you more than some acting out that overt behavior that's disrupting your classroom. Somebody that's passive aggressive refuses to do anything. So because they cannot get attention for strong academic skills, they may seek that attention for inappropriate behaviors. I'm going to make this number 3. This one right here. Well, what about suspension of students? One of the things that we commonly do is suspend them when they engage in these behaviors. Students with disabilities have higher rates of suspension than youth without disabilities. Now, you know that if you work with kids like this at all. They have some conflicting stats here. Let me give those to you that I want you to put in your notes. Okay, so analysis of data from the U.S. Department of Ed from 09 and 10 showed that 13% of students with disabilities in kindergarten through 12th grade are suspended, compared to 7. Okay, that's overall. So it's double. Twice the percentage, not numbers, just percentage of students without disabilities in rural middle schools. And the highest rate of suspension is middle schools. Studies of students with learning disabilities and students with attention deficits show that these students have a higher risk of being suspended. Okay. So when things get too hard, they become disruptive. If students suspended or expelled, the IEP must be taken this manifestation determination. It means that the IEP team must decide whether the presenting problem behavior is a result of the student's disability and whether the current IEP is being implemented. Okay, so that's you. And that's a working thing you're going to have to know. Here's what this is. So I'm going to make these two. This will be number 4. Is deal with both of those. This is the data. And this one here is what is this? Because this is a one you have to have a working knowledge of this. Even in an interview, what is a manifestation determination? And it comes right here is, does this disability they have interfere with their ability to understand their behaviors and the effect it has on behaviors? And it hits it hard here, where the current IEP is being implemented. Because sometimes that's what the problem is. And I had some experiences with manifestation determination, some positive, some not so positive. If the behavior is a result of the disability, or if the services of the IEP were not being met, services must continue for the student with disability who have been suspended or expelled. So here's what that means. The student could still be removed from school, but you must continue to provide special ed services for them in another setting if the IEP wasn't being followed or if the behavior was causing it. Okay. So here we go with the number of concerns that students reported to either suspended from school for more than 10 days. And that's kind of a magic number in this world is it more than 10 days? Because if it is, then they need to go to an alternative setting, especially for drugs and weapons. And this is part of the zero tolerance things that you can remove those, but you have to provide the service someplace else. Okay, so here it gives some more 2010 data of these schools. Approximately 85% of American students reported that 1 in 5 black males and 1 in 10 black females received out-of-school suspensions. I don't understand that. It goes on here in 10 states and urban, 25% of black students with disabilities were suspended in 2009 and 10. What I don't get about that is, so what? Let me see the other stats. What is it for the other students? What is it for other kids that have behavior problems? I would say it's the same. But when you don't list it here, I don't get why you would put that in here without any comparison. I'm not sure what that's about. Okay. In a Texas study reported 11, almost 60% of students in grades 7 to 12 received in-school suspension. Now, what kind of a school is that? What kind of a school? 60% of students. Doesn't say students on IEPs. Students received in school, out of school, or had been expelled. 60%? Why isn't this the front page of everything? 60% were suspended at least one time? Man, I don't. It seems way high to me. I don't. Does that seem high to you? Now, when you went to school, what percent of the students that you went to school with were this? Either had in-school suspension at least once, out of school at least once, or expelled. That seems just 10 times what I think. I went to school, I bet that wasn't 10%. I don't get it. And out of all the students who were suspended, students who qualified for special ed made up 75%. That I believe. And 76 of the students identified as having learning disabilities had at least one disciplinary action. That I believe. I think that's accurate. In fact, when I was teaching in the middle school, I would say that was very similar. But here, up here, it doesn't say that. Up here it says students, 60% of the students receive that. So that's interesting. Then here is a story about manifestation determination that will help you understand what that is. So please take a look at that. Yeah, we're going to look at this a little bit more here. This is the results of suspensions. This will be our number 5. Is what are the disadvantages of this suspensions? It's right here. Fall further behind academically, disengages them from the school, and increase the likelihood they will drop out of school. It also allows students to escape the situation and does nothing to teach a student appropriate behavioral skills. This is a responsibility as educators to work to keep students in. And that's what I found. The students I had in middle school were not sad about being suspended either in school or out of school. Did not bother them because, just what it says, you could escape. I had a student tell me one time that it was a lot easier time in the ISS room than it was in the regular classroom because the ISS teacher would help with schoolwork every day. She said, I always get my work done down there. You know what happens when I get my work done? I get good grades. That was a revelation for me. Let that be a revelation for you. What I understand is why that was our only tool. And we go back to these stats of how many kids we suspend. Obviously, it doesn't work. Obviously, that's not a deterrent. So we move on to this functional behavioral assessment and positive behavior supports. And you had this in the behavior disorder class. You learned about this, so let's fly over this. So if the student has a behavior problem and you mark it on the IEP that the behavior does interfere with learning, you have to follow these steps. Okay, the IEP team will consider strategies to support this behavior. If a child with disabilities displays behavior that impedes his or her learning or that of others around him, the IEP team must be able to evaluate the child's behavior through a functional behavior assessment and design a positive behavior support thing. I'm going to ask you what this is. This will be our number 6. We talk about this all the time. What is a BIP? On the IEP, it asks you about the BIP. Okay. So first of all, what is this functional behavioral assessment? Well, it's this. It's looking at the ABC of it. The A is antecedent, B is the behavior, and C is the consequence. So let's break them down a little farther. And I ask you to do this. This is our number 7. Is what do each of these stand for? What do they mean? The antecedent, behavior, and consequences. And here they are. What happens before the behavior occurs? And it kind of gives you like this with a fish. It sees this. It says, oh, yum. And then the behavior occurs. What is the specific behavior described in the measurable objective terms? And then the consequence. Okay, so what you're looking for, what is the cause? What did they do? And what was the consequence of that? Because remember, I just talked about the consequence of being suspended out of school not being a deterrent. So maybe that's what they wanted. Okay. Like here, when the teacher asks Charlie to read, that's your antecedent event. He begins to disturb others in the classroom by hitting them. How about this? Jerry swears to use inappropriate language when asked to do an independent math task. So those are antecedents. So 5 important outcomes gained from the functional assessment process. So here, this will be our number 8 here. First of all, what is this functional behavioral assessment? And then, what are these 5 important outcomes gained from the functional process? And they're right here. After the process, clear description of the behavior problem, identify the events, times, situations to predict them, identify the consequences, develop a summary statement, and collect the data and observation. Again, you bring those in here. And then these positive behavior supports, what are they? Are strategies to change a student's troublesome behavior and increase positive behavior, or replace this undesirable behavior. That's what this is. Okay, so I'm going to make that number 9, and I'm going to put it right here. Number 9 is, what is PBS? And this is going to be number 10. Steps to be asked to develop, how to develop positive supports, or questions should be asked, steps in developing those, and then strategies for implementing those. And let me show you where those are at. They're right here under this positive behavior supports. Here are steps to develop, this is the questions they should ask. Here is steps to develop this, and here is implementing them. And again, don't give me all this, just make this abridged. But I just want you to have this in your notes. Okay. then there's national conferences about this. This is a big time thing, and if you haven't heard of this, you will in special ed. Positive Behavioral Intervention Supports Group, PBIS, and it's a nationwide. And I say we have lots of conferences. Here's their web page. And here's tons of stuff. Oh, this page isn't found anymore. But if you Google that, you'll find there's just oodles of stuff on it. That's number 10. And what is a school-wide positive behavior support? Can you, I'm going to make that number 11 because I want to know this. Number 11 is this. Have you ever heard of this? This school-wide positive behavior support? Just say, yes, I've heard of this, or no, I've not heard of this. And a lot of times this was on fire some years back, but it's kind of died now. So what this school-wide is, address the entire school as well as the individual. So this was a kind of an offshoot of this positive behavior supports. So what about the other kids? So they came up with this school-wide thing. And they just gloss over it here in the textbook, but it's a school-wide approach that looks like this. I grabbed this for you. It really has 3 parts to it based on the need. Okay, and here's that word that we've had before, a continuum of school-wide instructional positive behavior supports. The first is, that's primary prevention school, a wide system for all students, staff, and settings. So it's just the normal things that you do to help kids support that positive support. You know, positive interactions in your classroom. Let's say regular. Then this is called the secondary prevention. It's kind of a specialized group that have at-risk behaviors. And it's about 15%. So 80% of the kids in most schools will need nothing. No support, additional support at all. Okay, and then secondary, about 15, but here is your students, and some of these might be your students too here in the secondary, but for the most part, here are these what's called tertiary, specialized systems for students with high-risk behaviors. So they're getting the same supports as everybody else, plus they get some of this secondary, but they have to go another step farther, and that's called tertiary. All right, and so I say to you, this is number 12. Tell about these, of each of those. So what are the functions of this behavior? What are the functions? Well, first step right here, if you can get this, if you can understand this and take this with you, you'll have, it's a big step for this whole process. And that is, every behavior is a communication. It is for you, it is for me, it's especially true for these kids. So every time you see something, what are they trying to communicate? Okay. And your job is, trying to figure out what it is. So that's what the whole idea of this functional behavior is you evaluate this. It's difficult for a teacher to see the function of the behavior he or she may use too close to the situation. However, another individual may walk in and see it. Okay, and that'll be your job. That's why you'll do observations in classroom and see if you can spot what's going on. And the general educator may not have time to do this. That's why we go to these specialized people like you. Okay, so here are the purposes. Axis. Some examples of engaging in a specific to gain attention, power, and control is this. It gives you examples. All right, escape and avoidance. Okay, and sensory, and this is less. This is more autistic kids. Less likely there. All right. So I'm saying to you, here they are, and now you give examples of each one. Number 13 is, what are these functions? Here's this behavior. He's a 5th grade student with learning disabilities. I bring this in later here. It's too hard for him. If you allow me, I'm just going to read this. Very resistant to completing math assignments. When the teacher presents him with a worksheet to complete in math, which is the antecedent, he rips the paper up, throws it on the floor each time. That's his behavior, and the teacher then sends Jared to the office. Gets his consequence. The function of the behavior is to escape, obviously. So Jared actually has done a good job of communicating what he doesn't like. Okay. Functional assessment showed that Jared does have skills to do math, but the worksheets are difficult for him because of his visual motor perception difficulties. And again, this is a stretch. He's easily overwhelmed by the paper and may have math problems. However, Jared has a strong computer skills and loves to read books about Superman. Okay, so they give you a strength, some things to work with. So what do? Here's this BIP, this behavior intervention plan. Is created. The placement behavior desired is to complete written math assignments in 5th grade. The goal is for him to complete 20 math. So we do this, broken down into benchmarks. So first, can he do 5? And you would know this. And we can do this with all kids. Hey, 20 is too much. It's overwhelming. Give them a paper with 5 on, or less if you have to. Something that builds success. Then it walks you through it. So strategies to improve social competencies. Ooh. Students who are socially competent learn social skills effortlessly through daily living and observations, like you and I did. If you're socially competent. If you have social challenges, not so much. Remember that they try to communicate stuff then. If we just try and teach students to do academic work, teach them what social challenges, how to live and relate to people. All right. Oh, I'm going to make this number 14. Try this. Each of these is what is it access, escape, or sensory? Okay, so that's what you're going to address on each of those. Strategies to improve their self-perception. Okay, let's have a look here. How do we improve it? Well, scrapbooks can help students put together information about themselves, and now you have that digitally. Should include pictures of themselves at different stages of growth, pictures of self, this, anecdotes about their past, all this to help them reflect on themselves. Here's the challenge to you is, be really careful with kids that come from these served families, these challenged families, because number one, they may not have this, and two, it may be painful for them to hear their story. So you be sensitive before you do this. Now, if that's not the case, this is a phenomenal exercise for all kids. My kids have had to do this a couple times, and even though they complain, they love doing it, hearing about it, taking pictures of them here and now. Of course, they don't take pictures; they're all digital, but we send pictures. I know just recently had to send one of them a bunch of pictures of themselves and stuff that they could make this. But you could have a group of students of these, what we call the underclass, that this is not a good exercise. Okay. So first of all, how do we improve nonverbal communications? These picture faces, gestures, DVDs, right here. Bring something in about this. First of all, how do we improve their perception? Make that number 15. And then improving this here is number 16. And you don't have to have a lot, but bring that in. And then here's number 17 and number 18. Strategies for social skills. Strategies can teach students, and they're right here. Here's cognitive strategies for social skills. You can just use these if you want. And then, oh, I got too far. It's this one. Yeah, these are the one, and then here's the other one for social skills. Back here. All right. Now we'll move on. Strategies for students with emotional challenges. Successful experiences build feelings of self-worth, self-confidence, self-respect. That's okay. Successful experiences build this. And you did this with your parents, at home. What if you were from a home that didn't have successful experiences? Didn't have positive interactions with parents and those around them from the time they were young? Then you bring that to school. So strategies for improving self-esteem. And I'm going to say right here, again, make this abridged, but bring this in, these here. And this is number 19. And again, yeah, you don't need to, like these here, bring this all, but just talk about each one of these steps here, each one of these strategies, improving their self-esteem. And then strategies for students with these behavioral challenges. They may display disruptive or anti-social coping behaviors. Okay? And so here's these things that you can work with. What can we do for these behavioral challenges? Seating placement, plan varied activities, provide structure and routine, require a daily assignment notebook, make sure you have students' attention. So here they are. And this is going to be number 20. It's what are you going to do to help these students with behavioral challenges? There's a list of them here for you. You're just going to bring some information about each one. Oh, and I showed you this BIP of here, and it comes back here a little bit. Develop this effective BIP. Is that okay if I use that jargon, these acronyms that we kill people with in special ed? I just want to do it here so you get used to it. A BIP. Okay. Discuss conducting this functional behavioral assessment, like what is they trying to communicate to you, and then create a one-size-fits-all, but the behavior intervention plan should be based on their need, what they're interested in, what they're good at. I can remember this too. We're supposed to find something they're good at, and what a struggle that was sometimes. How to give this. So this was, remember this, we said, hey, we're just going to ask him to do 5 instead of all of them, and then slowly move him up as he becomes successful, if he becomes successful. What I struggled with sometimes, I tried to move them too fast. They would be successful here and say, let's try 10, and the wheels would come off it. So just be very sensitive to that. So how do we create a positive classroom environment? And again, we model positive, peaceful behaviors. We provide routine structure and organization within that classroom. Clear expectations. Environment of caring and success. Understand and respect diverse cultures. As physically appealing as possible. And I want to go back to this one. Clear expectations of the classroom, because one of the things that's changing that's going to cause some angst for you is we've really adopted a more active learning classrooms that aren't near as structured. Has a lot more flexibility for kids, and a lot of them can handle it, but it's going to be really a struggle for these kids. And that's why we put this in here. So you think about that when you're creating learning in your class. how does it fit these kids? So here's 21. Bring something in about each of these, and again, it's an abridged version, but something, I wanted something in your notes about creating this environment, including my whine here about these clear expectations, and they're right here. Then this airless learning techniques, I have those here for you. What is fading, backward chaining, and examples of them, and they're all right here. Fading is this, gradual removal of these supports, and then backward chaining consists of which is a chain task reverse order from that in which they have. Okay, and then it gives examples of those for you here, including these stories. And this would be number 21. Right? 22. Okay, so how do we structure this academic thing? Build choice into assignments to give students power and control. And this is really pretty well done. Response cards. Traveling assignments for worksheets. Okay, this is interesting. Instead of giving a student a worksheet with 100 math problems, cut the worksheet into strips. Tape the strips on around the room. Students can use a clipboard and go around this. I guarantee that will resonate with kids. And I would do it with the whole class. I wouldn't do it just these kids. I would let them all do some kind of a traveling thing like this. You know anything I'll push you a little farther? Do it with technology. Let them take their iPad around and do them on the iPad as they pick them off the wall. In my computer class, we told you how to make bigger poster type things that you can put on the wall out of an Excel spreadsheet that you can have kids travel and do work and respond on the iPad. That's free. Okay. And here those three things are here. And I want you to come up with this. So this is number 23, including you come up with something else you suggest. Okay. These self-management strategies here. Try and teach students to manage their own behaviors at an early age. Self-monitoring during independent seat work, improves student accuracy. Self-management fosters independence for students. Okay, and here's the steps to do that. First of all, what are those things? Right there. These steps. And here's the thing on goal setting. Steps for goal setting. And that'll be number 25. Then positive strategies for passive-aggressive behaviors. This is what I was whining about earlier, is these passive-aggressive students. First of all, what is passive-aggressive? Looks like this. A student shows aggression by refusing to do something. Have you heard that term? I want you to put that in here first. Sorry, I can't remember. Number 26. All right. Aggression exhibited through their refusal to do something that they can make adults angry. And I said, this was my thing. I couldn't handle that. They just do not want to do what expect of them. So that's what that is. Stimulus, combined passive-aggressive behavior that is both conforming and irritating to others, behavior that is more destructive to internal relationships, acts of are covert, insidious, last a lifetime, and anger is expressed indirectly. Number 27 here, this, recognize the student is engaged in passive-aggressive behavior, avoid engaging in begging behavior, and acknowledge these normal feelings of anger. So this will be number 27. Here, something about this, and then normal feelings of anger here. Let's bring these in, and again, some abridged version will help you remember these right here. I'll make that 28 for you. Then also this here, interventions to help deal with these feelings of anger, and these are here, come from down here, below here. Use iMessage, request the students start a task, provide power and control by giving assignments that incorporate choices, utilize behavioral momentum, and you want to deal with that here. Okay, and so this will be number 29. And some more behavior management strategies. Contingency contracting. This writing a contract here, this PREMAC principle. I want you to, this would be number 30, these two, what do they mean? And what they use. And what I did is I just grabbed this out of the book to show you. I worked with a gal that was the best at this. That she always, can I just read this to you? Bryce is a 6th grade student, refuses to work his assignment notebook, refuses to take his assignment notebook home with him at night and to return it to school. He takes his book home, but not his assignment notebook. And as a result, he doesn't know what to do, and his parents don't know what he should do to assist him. Bryce has general education classes and the remainder of his days in special ed. His special ed teacher has exposed him to a variety of types of assignments notebooks, and he likes the one that doesn't have to take home. He leaves the special education classroom at the end of the day, the notebook and his books, but the notebook does not get home. It's found that he hides it in his locker on his way to the bus. Bryce loves to draw and has been losing his drawing time because he doesn't do the assignments. The special ed teacher and general ed teachers, the principal and Bryce, his mother, meet to create this contract. Here's what the contract says. Contract's agreement each evening that Bryce agrees that he will take his assignment notebook home and homework assignments recorded in the book he needs, complete all his homework assignments, and return the assignments the next day, and books on the assignment notebook will be returned. Each day Bryce returns the above completed 3 things. Special ed teacher, first thing in the morning, the special ed teacher agrees to do this. 20 minutes of free drawing time. Each week, Bryce has returned all the items. Bryce will receive a coupon, excuse him, for choice of homework assignment. So, if he does it every day, he gets 20 minutes of free time to draw. And if he does it 5 days in a row of the week, he gets to cancel assignment. And then everybody signs it. Okay, can I put in a suggestion here? Make this electronic. Make him fill it out online. He'll enjoy it more. Parents will see it. Do like a Google Doc or a Google Sheet or something like that. That's digital, if that works for the family. Know the family to know if that's a possibility. If it's not, you need to do the paper one. But in this era we live in, like in our house, this would be futile. It would be 100% better to be digital. And he's a 6th grade student. He can operate the computer. And again, get him on the iPad and let him put this in here, what they do. Coach him up a little bit. I would do it digital. But that's the way my brain works. But it might be a family that this is better, is paper. But that's what a contract is. What the student does, if he does it, this is what he gets. Everybody signs it, and you try and hold him accountable. And the lady I said that was so good at this, and she did these all the time, I'm going to say to you 50%. 50% of the time she was successful. And the other 50 had absolutely no effect. The first day the student didn't carry through. But it didn't deter her. She loved them. And that was her thing. And she had half the students in her charge on contingency contracts. All right. You got that. Contingency contracts. Yeah. And then timeouts is a procedure in which a disruptive student is removed from instructional activities and placed in a designated isolated area for a short period of time. You know that. You've been around since God created little green apples. The conditions will increase the likelihood of success with the timeout method. And here's those are right here. And these are number 30. It looks like it's 30. I think it's 31. Then we just have 30. Yes, 31. Right, and they're right here. How to do a timeout. And then this cognitive behavior modification, I think, is a little tougher, a little more challenging. It's an instructional approach to learning. It requires that the individual learn to motivate themselves through this, talking to themselves out loud, giving themselves instruction on what they should be doing, rewarding themselves verbally for accomplishment. This must be a little different. Then here's the steps to it. Okay. There they are. And we're going to make this down here, number 32, is what are these steps? And they're right down here. Okay. And in reinforcements, this reinforcement theory on this, and I give you this, reinforcement theory is a behavior concept of learning based on using rewards. And what are reinforcements? An event following a response that increases the likelihood the person would make the similar response in the future. So to do this, the teacher must what? And I have this right here for you. And this is number 33 right here. Comes from there. And then finding the reinforcers. And here's what they come up with. Food, play materials, tokens, activities, or privileges. And you're going to talk about each of those. Number 34. And you had a lot of this in the behavior class also. And this homeschool coordination of these behavior plans are intended to improve this behavior students. So this are established for the student. Each day the teacher indicates the goals the student has met. These behavior management sheets are sent home, signed by the parent, acknowledged the teachers. And again, I would say to you, let me take you here what I have, is this. If at all possible, do this electronically. Do it digital. I mean, a lot of times these can be handled on your phones and stuff, iPads. It depends on the family. If it's an underclass family, then you need to do paper. But if it's not, if at all possible, check this out. See if you can do it digitally. And all this says is you're going back and forth between parent and thing as the homework turned in. And you mark these off, whether they are and they aren't. You're going to work within 3 minutes. Did this happen or not? Followed directions, followed class and school rules, paid attention, raised hand. It's just a way to communicate with the family. And digitally, now you can just do so much more here because you could voice in stuff. But if not, do this paper part, because here's what's going to happen. This and the contract, some of our underclass families, they won't carry through on this. And this was my frustration with things like this, is the parent didn't carry through. The parent didn't carry through. So then you're jumping the kid because this didn't happen. The parent forgot or lost it or didn't manage it well. So that becomes that problem. So there you got homeschool coordination. There's your behavior management thing. I'm going to put some of that in the clips. Okay, and there's your summary. There you have it. Best to you in working in this field of social, emotional, and behavior challenges.